Hello, good morning, and a very warm welcome to all of you. This is our third panel discussion in a series of webinars and panel discussions which is being conducted by the DNI India Group. I would like to give a very warm welcome and a very happy morning to everyone who's taken the time out to come and participate in this webinar. We have an esteemed panel here. We have our senior leadership from Explio India. We have the DNI core team, and we have eminent speakers from the industry who are very experienced and who have done a lot of work on the DNI initiatives. So the topic for the day, so let me set the context here before I hand over to our moderator Deepthi today. The topic for the day is fostering diversity, equity, inclusion through reliability and trust. So what we focus on is on the policies, programs, and participations. So first, I would like to introduce our Explio senior leadership, Balaji Vishwanathan, who is the MD and CEO of Explio India. Balaji, if you'd like to say a few words, I will then move on to introduce the rest of the panelists.
No, actually, I'm also keen to hear from the panelists on this particular topic. DNI as a practice, has been quite young within Explio. It's been just a couple of years that we've been focusing on this, and there is a lot for us to do. We have taken some really bold and concrete steps in the last couple of years, and this is a very important topic for all of us, apart from sustainability. So really looking forward to hearing your inputs and the valuable insights that the panelists can offer us. Thank you so much, and warm welcome to all.
Thank you, Balaji. I'd like to introduce Prashant Brahmankar, who is the CEO of Explio India. Prashant, if you'd like to add a few words, please.
As Balaji said, I'm interested in learning from the panelists. There's one thing though, as Balaji said, for last couple of years, we are running this as a program, a focused program. But without knowing these fancy terms, for a very long time, we have been very cautiously doing the diversity stuff. I mean, Dipti was part of that, she's aware. And we were also thinking continuously that what it takes to have more leaders, more women leaders in the company. And we have our own issues, it's like any other industry. But now we are doing more cautious, more focused efforts for last couple of years. So I'd be more interested in understanding from the panelists that how the rest of the world does it and how we can learn from them. So again, welcome everyone. Thanks, Jayshree.
Thank you, Prashant. I would like to introduce Dr. Kumar Vishwanath. Kumar Vishwanath is currently heading the shared services at Mindtree, and he's running a multifunctional shared services organization. He's also spearheading the artificial intelligence initiatives at Mindtree. One of the key highlights which impressed me the most when I read through the profile was the very different and unique inclusivity drive which was done at the Bangalore Central Prison, and where people were interviewed, and this is also giving hope for the first-time offenders. He's also a leadership coach and a senior HR professional with over 30+ years of experience, an honorary doctorate from a New York-based university. And in 2016, he was also awarded the HR Superstar by HRO Magazine Philadelphia. And currently, he's also a member of the NASSCOM steering committee. Dr. Kumar, if you'd like to add a few words in case I've missed anything, because you have so many accolades to your profile. So please add if I've missed anything, Dr. Kumar.
No, I think that's fine. The more I hear it, the more small I become. So I've already become tinier. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and warm welcome to you, Dr. Kumar. Ms. Linika Khatar, I'd like to introduce Ms. Linika Khatar, who's the regional head at NASSCOM. We're very happy to have you on board here for the panel discussion. She also leads the diversity, equity, and inclusion chapter, and she was a senior leader in the banking space, working for large banks like HDFC and HSBC before she joined NASSCOM. Ms. Linika, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so I am not the regional head. I manage the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Charter at NASSCOM now. So my prior profile was the regional head. Now I'm managing the DNI at NASSCOM.
Sure. Thank you, Linika. I'd like to introduce Nanda Chintaluri, who is the Global Operations Head at RRD, and she provides strategic direction for research and analytics and also the financial management services. She's a senior finance professional and also a data science enthusiast. She's on the advisory board member at IIM Bangalore for Data Center Analytics Lab, and she's also won the Women Leader of the Year 2019 by the Great Indian Women Leaders Awards. Ms. Nanda, would you like to add something?
Nice to be with all of you. I also take care of the diversity for Ara Donnelly. I'm the executive sponsor. We do have a fairly large team that is actively involved in this whole process. So happy to be here with you all and learn from all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Nanda, and I think that will definitely give us a lot of inputs and ideas, based on the discussions that we're going to have today. I move on to Ms. Madhuri Mehta, who's the Executive Director, CHRO, MR India. She's working to build a strong HR foundation and has personally led many transformation programs and has also set up the entire HR practice for many startups. So, Ms. Madhuri, if you'd like to add a few words, please.
No, I just would like to thank you for inviting me to be a panel member, and happy to share my experiences and learn from everyone here. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Madhuri, and welcome. I'd like to now hand over to Deepti. Deepti is the co-chairman of the D&I group in Explio India, and she's been very enthusiastically, running all the initiatives here. She is also the global program manager and the HR head for digital CBU in India. So over to you, Deepti. I'm happy to welcome on board all our panelists and look forward to a very exciting and engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree, and welcome all of you to this panel discussion. We are in the process of creating a lot of awareness within our organization, and it's been a continuous process in the last 1.5 to 2 years. We formally started or kick-started in October last year within Explio in India. And I heard this buzzwords, sponsors, D&I head, and people coming in from different industries. So this itself is the mix that we look for, and we are so happy to have the right kind of sponsors within Explio in India. Prashant and Balaji have been strong supporters of this initiative in India for us. And we were, when we actually started with formally this group, we were intrigued by this term, because since 2018 we've been hearing about D&I a lot, many times through several forums. So my question starts with all the panelists, and I'll start the first, just take the names. If we could start with Dr. Kumar, and the question is, how long a period or the duration is it for creating awareness for D&I going to be in the industry? Because we've been hearing it from 2018 or so, especially the India context, because here we are talking about all the initiatives that we are running within India. It could be interpreted in different ways in different countries based on the GDPR requirements. But what is the India context, the past, present, and the future? And do we see D&I just as a motto, or people using this term just for saving themselves, or is it something that is really practiced core by most of the organization? So if we could start with Dr. Kumar.
Yeah, that's a good question. See, if I look at it, I've been in this industry for the last 30 years. For the first 13, 14 years, this term never existed. At least I didn't know. We were not really serious. Of course, we were hiring women, we were hiring people who were disabled, but not very consciously, not with any real purpose. But I think this D&I got into some level of momentum, I would say, in the last 15 years or so. Again, if you look at the degree of penetration, I think it varies from industry to industry, and also even within the IT industry. Again, some of the bigger ones seem to have done it well, or at least have evolved that in this space reasonably well. But I don't think we've reached a point where anybody can say that we have reached our complete potential with respect to D&I. If you look at any company, however small, big, or medium size they are, there is always opportunity for them to keep improving upon and working on this particular initiative, because there's no end to this particular initiative. Again, it's a question of how serious you are in this. A lot of times it becomes a motto, it becomes a nice slogan, it becomes a nice a regional calendarized event in some of those firms. But I think if you really have to succeed in this, I think it's a question of how it is led from the top. A lot of things actually can stem from the top, because they can be the biggest and the best influencers. But again, I wouldn't say that it is only with the top you're going to have the D&I environment of what you want to create. A lot of things can come bottom up, and a lot of things can come even from at any level. So I don't think there is one specific answer. There are multiple combinations available. I think the key thing is, as long as we are conscious about it and keep putting our efforts regularly, and not just keep this as a a yearly affair where we conduct some events and have some posters and some events running. If we get away from that and then start institutionalizing this across in various processes that we have, I think that's a good step. Some of the best ones start with their systems. Even in Mindtree for a very long time, we did not even think to that extent of creating systems that will help us in doing this. We were taken aback when we recently came across about last year. Somebody, I think Jayashree talked about the prison work that we've been doing, where we gave jobs to prison inmates, people who have committed crime, who were sentenced for life. And we thought we should start it because the idea was nobody had entered the prison. So we thought we should be the one we go and try something, because we still genuinely felt that that particular segment has a lot of potential but never been tapped. So why not try? So that was just a weird thought. One thing that's surprised us after all that is last year I hired about 10 transgenders in my team. And that was the first of its kind. And later we realized our systems are not even ready for it. Now, one is intent, one is purpose. At the same time, it's also important that we keep the ecosystem and the system also ready. So it was slightly little embarrassing for us to tweak the system after people have been onboarded. But that is OK. There's no shame in doing it, but that is OK. I think the point is, if you start looking at holistically, then a lot of things can fall in place. And that obviously, like I said, can come from the bottom, from the top, and also from anybody in between. It's not necessary that it has to come only from the top. I think if we have that culture and the sense of empowerment, a lot of things definitely will emerge.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. I think these are very, very important points that you brought up, especially in terms of the, not just the talking part or the discussion part, but the walking the talk part, right? And then you've actually given us examples how you've been able to implement it within your organization. And there's a lot of learning. We'll certainly reach out to you on this front again on the same topic, because that's part of our D&I agenda too. So we'd like to hear more from our other panelists. Nanda, if you could go next, followed by Madhuri and Linika.
Sure, Deepti. So I think when you're talking about, how long how much more does the industry need to do? I think industry is one part, but unless the entire society really changes its mindset, we will need to continue doing this, because ultimately it is not just about us doing something in our company. It is about it having an impact on the society and the society itself changing. So even today, I mean, I'm talking of like just yesterday, somebody was telling me, talking about some girl and saying, her husband is well settled, is doing well. Why does she need to work? So we still have that mindset in our society. I still see people, people do not want to rent a house to a transgender. You're afraid of them. So if you hire them, but you still don't make them inclusive in your organization, don't feel comfortable around them, and don't make them feel like anyone else in the organization, we still have a long way to go. So I think we still have a lot to do, and we are talking of, we've started, just at the, is what I'd say, I would think. And I agree with Mr. Kumar. I think it was just about 15 years back in my own organization that we started off. And when we started off and I was asked to be one of the founding members, my first reaction was, women don't need some, what is it, quota or, reservation. What are we trying to do here? But then, of course, I mean, I've realized over a period of time, there's so much to be done, and there's so much of mindset opening that needs to be done. There are still managers who say, what, she's a married woman, married for 2 years. If I hire her now, she will become pregnant next year. There are people who still have that. So it is that mindset in the society that needs to change. We still are a patriarchal society, and that has to change. So there is a lot to be done. The last 15 years, we have covered a lot of ground. but yes, more to be done.
Thank you, Nanda. We'd like to hear from you, Linika.
I think so I've been part of the industry from the last 26 years and been part of the excluded journey, if I may say, right? So I was a working woman. In 2001, I gave birth to my first child, and 2010 was my second child. I think we've come a long way. So diversity today is not only about gender or people with disability or transgender. It is about people with differences, right? And those differences could be anything. These could be cognitive differences, thinking differences, people coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, people coming from non-technical background. Even that is diversity. So today we are talking about diversity of personification, right? So everybody is different. And to an extent, even our workspaces are diverse. So there are people working from home, there are people working from office. So diversity to that extent. So in my mind, that is diversity. The more important aspects of diversity today in this hybrid environment is around the whole inclusion and belonging space, right? So diversity is just about having a seat at the table. I think what is very important is having a voice at the table, which is inclusion. And the more our voices are heard, that is belonging. So to my mind, all these aspects of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging are very, very important as we go further in the hybrid environment. I don't think it is a good to do thing. It is a socialist aspect anymore. A lot of business requirements are linked to diversity today. You know, I have seen a lot of proposals, customers, a lot of people have started to talk about what is diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging means for your organization. So yeah, we still have a long way to go, but I think we have come a long way. And I'm very, very hopeful and very positive as I engage with a lot of people in the industry. I see a clear intent of doing, even leaders want to do it. I think it is about understanding on how do we do it. So more importantly than creating diversity is also understanding the diversity that currently exists in our workforce. You know, and that diversity could be generational, it could be experience, it could be people with different backgrounds, because it's very clearly proven that different diverse individuals, different diverse cohorts behave differently. So, you know, why generational? Because this generation would behave very differently. A Gen Z would be different to Gen X and would be different to millennials. So that is why the whole understanding of diversity is very, very important. I don't think we need to run after creating diversity as much as we need to understand what does diversity mean and how do we understand it better.
I think as we are progressing from one panelist to another, the contributions that are coming in from your experience and your knowledge and intellect is, and your observation around is certainly, you know, giving us a lot of insights into what diversity actually is, right? We are talking about, you know, getting on board prison inmates, getting on board transgenders in teams, and you know, diversity explained by Linika in a different manner in terms of, you know, the kind of you know, location or the tier 2, tier 3 cities and how people are getting into teams. So amazing inputs that we are getting. Over to you, Madhuri, for the next input for this.
Thank you so much. I think I kind of resonate with what everybody has said so far. And I think I also believe that awareness is gaining momentum, and I think it has gained a lot of momentum in the last decade or so. But for it to become an inherent practice in some of the industries, I still think we have a long way to go. I'm sure in some, you know, sectors we have made, you know, huge leaps in terms of progress, but in terms of it becoming an inherent practice, I think there is still a long way to go. In fact, I mean, the entire movement, civil rights movement, which started in 1950s, and then, you know, it still matters because you still have movements like Black Lives Matter, which is happening, you know, and they started long time back. In India, it's, you know, it's just 15, 20 years old, but when the Western world kind of started these movement with women's rights and everything in 1950s, and they still have a long way to go. Yes, they have practices, they have policies, but still look at where they are right now and kind of movements that are happening there. What I really like about it right now is that diversity as a definition is widening its scope. As Linika actually said, that now we are not only talking about women or specially abled, but there is also talk about sexual orientation, age, there is about religion, there is about educational background, so all kinds of things are, actually coming in that definition, and awareness is rising in the organization. The other plus point that I see right now is that, it used to be seen only as an HR job earlier. Diversity was very, it's an HR job. Okay, you need to increase the women ratio from 2% to 4%, or 4% to 8%. And I've seen services and I've seen manufacturing. But now I think it's becoming more of a CEO mandate, which actually is giving a lot of, importance to this area. And, once it's in the CEO's goal and it's in his mandate, then actually everybody starts, whether they believe it or not, but at least everybody starts working around. So I remember, because I had joined from services to manufacturing, and this is in May 2006 when I joined manufacturing, and I was when I arrived there, I saw, I was only like, there were only 4 to 5 women in that organization. And I said, oh my God, what is this? And, so I started this mandate, okay, let me get all GETs as women and, start putting them in the plants. And I think they lasted only 2 months. I thought I was doing a great job. This is like really 18 years back. But 2 months back, they all came back to my lap, back to the corporate office. So, then it's then, that I realized that, putting a great program, putting all the infrastructure for them, having separate washroom, that's one part of it. But the inclusion, how do you change mindset? How do you get them to, start working with them as one team? So it's like, you've called somebody to the party, but they're not dancing. So they're not part of that team. So that was a very, and to now, I think last year, where my CEO actually told me that the women diversity, the ratios increased a lot in the organization, where he told me, I want all women GETs this year. So, but it took it was a 16-year journey. It was not something, that happened overnight. So I think, yes, awareness is really high right now, but for it to reach a significant level or become an inherent practice, I think all of us here will need to do a lot.
Great insights. Thank you, Madhuri. And Sheetal and Bharat would concur on this. We just came out of a meeting where one of the engineering teams was talking about, how are we going to focus only on hiring more women colleagues at different levels in our organization. So yeah, these are the kind of discussions that we constantly have with different groups. And obviously it comes to the question, and many attribute that D&I is, okay, if a woman is driving it, or if there's a team of women who are driving it, then that's D&I. But I have this question very specifically for Dr. Kumar, that who should actually take this responsibility of instilling the D&I system in the organizations people start? Should it be the HR? Should it be the senior management, the CEO's agenda, or the D&I team? How do you look at it?
To be brutally honest, everybody. Everybody needs to be in this game. Everybody needs to have their skin in this game. And that's the only way we can succeed. It is not like what Madhuri was saying. It's not a HR agenda. It used to be maybe 14, 15 years ago, but I don't think that's the case. And if we have such a practice in that company, we know where they are in their journey. It's as simple as that. If you really want to measure the success of it, I think everybody down the floor should be talking about it. Nobody asked me to do move the work to prison. Nobody asked me to hire transgenders. My boss was not asking me to do it. It was not my KRA. So it's just something that I felt we have to do it, as simple as that. But at the end of the day, we keep talking about this. There is a difference between responsibility and accountability. Everybody is responsible. But when it comes to accountability, we need only one neck to choke, and that neck can be HR. Accountability can lie with HR. That's fine. That's fine because HR is used to it, so no problem. But the responsibility lies with the entire organization, each and every manager, each and every individual.
Thank you for that. with this insight, we certainly move on to the next set of questions. We have quite a few because this is getting into a very, very interesting conversation. So we've talked about the concept. We've talked about instilling this concept in the organizations. Now, if we hit upon some of the other commonly used terms in the industry today, this great war for talent that we've been hearing in the last 2 years, social media is responsible for coining all these terminologies. And then we are hearing about this great resignations again in the last 2 years itself, and then the turnaround of people within all the organizations possibly. And then we're also hearing this buzz about the Great Recession coming in. So how do you think that from the reliability angle, organizations will be able to achieve D&I? So my question starts with Linika first.
So I think, Deepti, the war for talent, I understand, but what diversity does is it increases the pool, right? So very clearly, I mean, in this environment, it's easy hiring diverse workforce, women and others as well, right? Working from home is easier for people with different abilities, it's easier for neurodivergent talent, etc. I think as an industry, what is very important is, so I coined this statement called hybrid impacting idea equations, right? So hybrid impacting inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. While on one side, the diverse workforce or the pool is increasing, but what is very important for the industry is to look at that leaking pipeline. I mean, if we don't take care of the inclusion, the strategies, the policies, the culture, then on one hand, we would be increasing diversity. The pool would be increasing. You can hire from tier 2, tier 3 cities. You can hire gig workers. You can hire global workforce. You can hire women largely because, it allows you to, the work-life balance gets better. You can even hire people with different ability because you don't have to make so much of structural changes and so on. However, if we don't work on how to this diverse workforce start to feel included in an organization, then there is that risk of leaking pipeline. So to me, that balancing act as organizations is very, very important.
Thank you, Linika. Over to you, Madhuri, for your insights.
So I think I completely agree with Linika that we have to change our mindset first, and there has to be shared commitment to the D&I. And as Kumar was also mentioning, it has to be a shared responsibility. It cannot just be an HR mandate. Yeah, we are happy to take that accountability and make sure it happens. But yes, the pool is going to be increasing, right? I mean, you have women, you have people who can do flexi hours, and you can, hire anybody right now across the world. If you don't have, you want them to come to an office every day. You have people from tier 2, tier 3 city, and it is happening. I mean, you see that shift happening. But organizations, I think, will have to take that and, basically need to have a clearly stated commitment. And I think that HR and the CEO will need to, really put their hats together and say, okay, this is something that's very important to me, and this is what we are going to be doing. You see a lot of companies now, because of the ESG and sustainability, talking about being carbon negative, and they're going externally about it. Now, I think it's more to do with the financing and things like that, which is, impacting that as well. But in the same status, I think organizations also need to first have a clearly stated commitment to this, and that commitment needs to actually, I think, be divided into your KRAs or goals with the shared leadership. Once that happens, then everybody's serious about it. Then obviously your policies and your culture and things like that will obviously go along with it, so that you create an inclusive culture. And maybe have D&I forums and like what you're doing right now. So those things will become important. So that it becomes, a pillar in the organization. It's just like, I think, what I can see as a rainbow behind you. If you just have a black color, you can never see a beautiful rainbow. So the heterogeneity, I think people need to understand the importance of what diverse talent and diverse people, ages, gender bring to it, and they can create that beautiful rainbow.
Yeah, thank you, Madhuri, for summarizing it, because it is very, very important to understand all the different flavors of talent in
right.
Whether it could be gender, whether it could be age, or whether, all the inclusivity that you have been stressing on. Nanda, do you have some inputs for this point?
So the one thing I just want to add to this is that, today with the great resignation, everybody is suddenly understanding that, we don't have a limited pool. So let us take women who have taken a career break. We are going to rural areas and trying to tap that talent, getting people with disabilities, all that is fine. But this cannot be a flavor of the season that tomorrow, if there is a recession, you say that, this workforce will be the first to get impacted, or then you are saying that I have so many resumes, I have talented people to look at, and then, there is so much choice that you end up hiring all the best and the cream and forget about it. So the one thing I slightly differ from some of the others here is that, this responsibility is not that of HR. It has to be the CEO. Unless there is a commitment at the top level, this can, start off and then just not move anywhere. So if the CEO says that, I'm not just talking about whether it's a recession, suddenly you should not be focusing only on margins and profits and start thinking of, cutting down or forgetting all your agenda. This has to be sustained, and it will sustain only if there is that top level commitment, and has to be a continuous initiative, and across the organization, people should have that commitment. Unless people on the floor, people in operations, the mid-level managers have a buy-in to the whole thing, the success of the program is limited. So
absolutely concur with you and agree on the diverse views, whether whose responsibility is it, and this will always be the chicken and egg problem, but certainly it is the joint responsibility, and we see that there is certainly traction that is expected, more action from the HR, more vision from the CEO. And when it comes to action from the HR, we are intrigued by this problem, because we're talking about D&I, and since all of you have been champions, initiators, sponsors for D&I within your organizations, do you think that a concrete D&I policy helps in attracting more talent, more diverse talent? And this question could start with Dr. Kumar.
It's definitely a good place to start. But again, a policy alone does not guarantee anything. I think it's important that this is very well institutionalized and talked about, and also campaigned heavily over a period of time, at least during the early days, I would say. And then look at it this way: in some of those evolved industries, evolved organizations, I'll give you my own example. Gone are the days where when we sign an agreement with our customers, it was only about the commercial terms, the real SOW, the real work, etc. There are customers, I wouldn't say all customers, there are few customers that we work with where they insist what is the percentage of D&I. In fact, even if we have to respond to RFI, there are some qualifying criteria and they look for certain data related to D&I. And I think that's the way to go. In fact, some of those laggards will get a wake-up call when they are encountered with such a question. I think that's definitely very good. I'll give you one more example, something that we have recently started working. In fact, it's just that campaign is just about less than 2 weeks old. We are now collaborating with one of our biggest customers. Obviously, I can't give the name, but there is also a third party involved. In fact, the third party is Amazon. So Amazon Web Services. So as part of their CSR, whether it's good or bad, I really don't care. So they have some CSR programs and they wanted to give free training. So we have partnered with our customer to create that program. Basically target two segments, women and refugees across the world. So we're going to do this across the world, starting with Latin America, and then move to US, and then also bring it to certain countries in Asia, and then of course to India also. So they're going to be trained free of cost by Amazon on Amazon Web Services. There are different levels. Obviously, we have come up with a bunch of programs on that. And then we've got the assurance from our customer that they are also part of it, and whoever passes out graduates, they're willing to have them placed in their account. And again, this is not exclusively for only that particular account, because all these people, once they complete the program, they're going to be employees, they're going to be Mindtree Minds, they're going to be part of my payroll, Mindtree's payroll, and then they could be deployed either for the customer whom we are working with and also any other customer. And in a way that is also going to help us in creating a huge pool of people with that particular talent. So what I'm trying to say is this is one of the levels of maturity of such an initiative. So on one end, we have this awareness issue. On the other hand, we go outside, not just within the company, outside and partner with a couple of like-minded organizations and then see how this can be extrapolated across. So these are different ways and means by which we can definitely take it outside and also set some example.
These are extremely thought-provoking insights because obviously, within the limitations of every organization being able to do everything by ourselves, reaching out and making the other organizations or other, organizations which are more keen on or driving this agenda in a much more focused manner will certainly contribute and help in accelerating the entire initiative. So thank you for those insights, Dr. Kumar. We move on to Madhuri for her insights.
So I think HR in terms of has started to focus on DNA and also has started to look at it in a very innovative fashion. At least let me tell you a few things that I did which kind of helped increase diversity in workplaces that I've kind of very passionately wanted to do. So for example, and it has to be policies, practices, and it has to be creating that environment around, and it has to go, hand in hand. So like, for example, in terms of, hiring, we kind of made sure that if you are referring employee referral, there was a different incentive scheme that worked. If you're giving a, a diversity candidate rather than, somebody, known to you. So, the kind of referrals, employee referrals and incentivization that we did was very different for diversity versus as, normal referral. In the same way, the consultants have to be given the clear mandate that, if you're working for a senior leadership position, then you have to ensure that you table a, candidate in terms of, diversity. As I think Kumar was also mentioning, when we hire vendors on board, this was one of the questions that we had asked them that, what is their diversity ratio? What is their board diversity? So at least, I mean, it was not compulsory that you have to have this, but at least it will start, creating some kind of, questions in their mind. Okay, this is a question that companies are going to be asking if you're going to be working with, leading organizations, in this. At the same time, I think what I also did was in terms of, the organization did was in terms of development, looking at it, in terms of, the talent pool, that what kind of diverse learning and development charts that can we make for them, for, women who are returning back. Sometimes they don't want to work full time. They want to have flexi hours. Can we look at some kind of a job redesign? Can we look at, what more can we offer, them? At least in the plant working, you do have a creche, you do have a lot of things, but at metros, you might have to look at, things around that. Infrastructure, I think for us, because I was in a manufacturing organization, becomes very, very important, specifically if you're wanting to hire, specially abled in terms of are your premises accessible. So having an accessibility audit done of each of your plant to be ensure that, all the loopholes are covered. And that was something which I think worked very well for our plant. And we were able to attract, certain pool of talent because there are areas in plants that can actually, some roles like a CCR operator, which can easily work, So we did all of that. Also looking at in terms of your recruitment, if you're hiring, it's better to ask that are there any special requirements that the organization can take care of. So those were, I think, things from the policy aspect that we, try to kind of work out with. But I think one of the biggest thing is in terms of inclusion. How do we make sure that they get included across in the organization and in the teams that they're working? And I think in that D&I training makes a lot of difference where you're not only focusing on certain parts, a general kind of a D&I training, but also in terms of what are your unconscious bias and do role plays around that. And publicize the entire D&I philosophy of the organization across. Because that becomes very important so that people are aware, that what are the do's and what are the don'ts, and they act accordingly. So I think those were few of the things that I think HR is, and I see that happening across industries. It's not that I'm talking about my personal experience, but I do see that happening with my HR counterparts, whomever I'm talking about, that they are, now focusing on, more innovative way of, bringing this.
Amazing. And this certainly, gives us insights into what an HR policy around D&I could be around. So thank you so much for these insights, Dr. Kumar and Madhuri. We'll move on to the next question because we are talking about D&I, and then we have some passionate people who are, irrespective whether it was formally there in the organization or not, but there are passionate people who are trying to drive this agenda, right? And today we've coined this term called champions. So D&I champions is the term that we call to some of our enthusiastic people who want to drive certain initiatives, and then we try and bring everybody together in the umbrella. So if we could, give one word of advice to these champions, what would that be? And if I can start this with Linika, it could be a couple of more words too.
Yeah, no, I think for me, honestly, panelists and audience, it's been a self-experience. And I would want to narrate this self-experience. I've been a hardcore sales profile last 25 years, actually. And it's always been numbers, productivity, output, what do I want to achieve, and so on and so forth, right? It's always, 20 years have been very, very competitive. Last 5 years with NASSCOM was more about building things up on the profile that I was on. But I think the role that I'm managing now, I think it is clearly practice before you preach. So the way we as NASSCOM are wanting to do our D&I charter is to work with everybody. And I think this comes from within. It just cannot, and it's important for us as an organization to identify who are those people who feel for it. And to our surprise, you will find a lot of people who are genuinely invested in the topic. And the topic is this, it is, you can really be passionate about the topic. And once you get invested in the topic, it is very difficult to come out. So I think while there is very important to have those D&I, your leadership, your management operating council to be invested in it. But beyond that, I think it is about identifying those set of people who want to do this topic more passionately than one another work added to their profile. Because only then will we be able to achieve outputs. If we can, as Dr. Kumar mentioned, if we can have everybody run this agenda in the organization, nothing like it. But if we are beginning to have D&I champions, then the first layer is very, very important. Your direct reports to the CEO, they clearly need to have this in their appraisals. It needs to be documented to say this is what your end goals should be. And as we go further in the organization, it is about people who are invested in that topic.
Absolutely. And we've been having these discussions within the organizations. Thank you for throwing, an angle to it, Linika, because the commitment of different levels within the organization is also of prime focus and importance.
Very important.
Let us hear some more views from Dr. Kumar, followed by Nanda.
Yeah, I think if you look at any group activity, right, there is always one leader or one individual who's extremely passionate about it, but that's not going to guarantee success. You need to have the 3 or 4 pillars. They are the ones, the catalysts, they are the ones who really make things happen. They are the ones who really influence people. And if these people are taken from a nice heterogeneous network, then I think it makes a lot of sense. This is something that we learned the hard way. We picked up those champions from people who we know. And then we realized that's of no use because it wasn't effective. And good that we realized it in a matter of 3 months. I think less than 3 months. I'm saying this happened in one of my organization about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. So that's when we said we asked for volunteers. Very few people came. Obviously, very few people came. But then we realized we did not do enough campaign on this. People did not understand, because I'm saying more than 10 years ago, people really did not understand to the extent what we want them to. And then with some concentrated effort, things slowly started changing. But right now in my current company, Mindtree, we pick up these people from different walks of life, different profiles not necessarily from similar profile. And then we start engaging them slightly differently. That's also important that they need to stay motivated. But I completely agree with what Linika was saying. These are the people who you have to pick who are seriously passionate about this particular area. Passion is something that you can't inject. It has to be within. It has to be within. Obviously, it has to be within, no matter what you do. But the thing is, you will also be surprised. There are a lot of people who are available in different quarters whom you have ignored. I think if you have a mechanism by which means you need to have your antenna up in all segments of the company so that you pick up those people and then keep them engaged, and then they will do the work, and they will do the work. I think finally, it's not with the leader actually speaking, it's only with those champions who can really make the difference.
Thank you so much for these insights. Nanda, would you like to share?
So our experience is actually very similar to what Dr. Kumar said. You know, initially when we started off, we used to have a council and we asked for volunteers. Few would come up, and then we said, you know, each leader should nominate one person from his or her division. And people would not turn up for meetings, or they will be there in the meeting, but there is no action on the ground and all that. But over a period of time, you know, we realized if a person does something work and you really publicize it and you start, you know, giving attention to it. Now with social media and all, it's so much easier, you know, you put it out there in LinkedIn, in Facebook, Insta, your own intranet, everywhere. Then you find automatically that people who are genuinely interested and will come to you, they'll start working, and then you will have owners who will run with these things. You don't have to chase. It was earlier, you know, a push. Now it's a pull. There are people who come say that I have this idea. The most important thing is you empower them. You allow them to do these. You know, you should not be restricting them. And I found that, you know, their leaders also understand that if they are really passionate about it, then we need to kind of accommodate them doing this thing, because they are doing something which is really important across the organization. And that has done miracles. I mean, I have been in this company like in the last 15 years where we used to, you know, struggle to have one program every quarter. Now we have programs through the month continuously, and attendance has also increased so much. You know, earlier we used to literally, you know, force people to come and sit in these programs, versus now people on their own wanting and being a part of it. So it's about empowering the people who really care about it and not looking at hierarchy. Doesn't matter where they are, at what level they are, but giving them that power is important.
Thank you for those encouraging words, because we do face these challenges when we start off this activity. And then we are also new in this organization where we've just started it a year and a half back. We have our own struggles, our own pains, but we have good backing. We are working very closely with the champions. As I said, we just came out of a meeting where there was a lot of feedback. They wanted to initiate certain activity, and this is then going in the right direction. So a lot of bright days ahead for us is what we see. So Nanda, if you could stay on the topic, and I'd like to, you know, combine this question with a question that we've just got online from one of our viewer. And the person has this question saying that how can a company support working mothers in a way that does not burden the current team?
So this is the $1 million question across the globe. Everybody is trying to find answers to it. Bigger organizations, you know, find it easier to do it because you can move them to roles where they can work from home, they can have some flexi hours and all that. I am in the outsourcing industry. We have shifts. We have, you know, people who need to necessarily work shifts. There are clients who do not allow work from home, and there are teams that are forced to come back in. And there are certain teams where there are small teams. So, you know, if one person is not doing a shift, then the others have problems. They will say, you know what, because she is not doing shifts, we are getting burdened by it. There are others who are really willing to accommodate. So you will need to kind of, you know, figure out where people are willing to accommodate, give them that opportunity to move around a bit. Yes, there will be attrition, there will be clients screaming and all that by just moving them here to there, but you will have to identify those roles and goals where they can have the flexibility that they need. And now I think with this hybrid workforce coming in, it's made a big difference that, you know, you are able to give that flexi hours to people. With certain teams, we have like, you know, I'm giving you weekly goals. I'm not even giving you daily goals. you need to do something, finish it, whether you do it on a Saturday or a Sunday. If your weekdays you want to do less hours and you want to compensate it by taking something extra on a Saturday, we are fine. So that kind of flexibility wherever it is possible, that's where we keep these women. And I have more women in teams where this flexibility is there. It's very, very obvious, where you're not enforcing that it needs to be done, but that is the nature of the work that we've been able to identify, where we are able to give them that okay, you need to do something, accomplish it in a week. No need to have daily timelines, no need to be in office. So that's the kind of things that we'll have to figure out. And it is possible that there are certain roles where such things can be done, and we need to work with them.
Sure. I think these are very, very important inputs while we, even carve out the role and then figure out how to accommodate and give the options to different sets of people within the organization. We also probably need to engage more of our L&D to see to it that, the mindset of the other team members is also groomed in such a to become more inclusive.
I'm again saying that it cannot be HR that is doing, L&D that is doing. Sensitization, awareness has to be everywhere. And then this needs to be owned by people across the organization. If everybody starts sensitizing and creating that awareness, you will find a loyal workforce there.
Certainly. Thank you. I think in the interest of time, we have last 5 minutes before we close this session, but certainly I'll request Madhuri if she has any inputs over and above what Nanda has contributed to on this point.
I think here, Deepti, at least what I've seen working, obviously we need to have these policies where, women who have just returned, you need to have, in terms of, facilities in the organization, specifically in the plant, a childcare support, or you have returned to work program, find job roles in case they are not able to devote full time, and now at least, some roles can actually work from home. So we've been able to offer that. But in a case to case basis, it also has to be seen what is the team strength, what are the job responsibilities given to that team. And in case there is somebody who's on a maternity break and is not able to return full time, you might have to make alternative arrangements, shift look for another role for the woman if she is willing to. If not, then maybe, temporary staff that can be given. So you will have to look at it from a case to case basis, and the organization has to be flexible. So the leader and the HR will need to sit down, and discuss this out. But at no point in time there should be any, the person who's, coming back to work after some time should not feel shortchanged in any sense. So that kind of empathy has to be there with the leader as well as with HR, and they will both have to work together to make this, situation. And this will keep coming. Even with all the policies in the organization, you're going to have these kind of cases which will come up, which will require you to just sit down and, look at it more from that specific situation rather than look at it from a policy or a practice angle. It will happen.
Absolutely agree on this point. And that brings us to the last question of this forum today. Before we go to the rapid fire, but this last question is certainly about, if I may ask every single person in this panel, at least one focused action, right, to make any of the D&I endeavors successful. If there's one action item that you can give, probably two. Let's start with Dr. Kumar.
I think we are still at a stage where we need to sensitize a lot more. So make this a mandatory part of the quarterly results that you announce internally as well as externally. And make sure that you have an agenda, you have a topic on this that comes from the top, and then it gets institutionalized, hammered down again and again. I think that's one. Second, look for some innovation or differences that are happening within your organization and highlight it. Go to the rooftop and do a tom-tom proudly. There are a lot of wonderful stories that are happening without our knowledge, and I'm conscious of this because as we become bigger and bigger. When I joined Mindtree, it was just 11,000 people in 2013. Now we are 42,000 people. So a lot of things that are happening there, I keep discovering myself, although I'm spending 9 years in the company. So it's important that we have our antenna up in every corners of the organization so that when we have some nice stuff happening, make sure that let the whole world know. I think particularly I'm just wearing a DNI lens and then starts looking at some nice stuff that are happening, I would rather go to the rooftop and do this tom-tom all over again proudly.
Thank you so much for stressing on that point. Over to you, Linika.
I don't think there's one thing that I have in mind as an industry body. I think the changes need to be made four-pronged, starting from leadership to structural to cultural and behavior. So first thing first, I think the leadership structural, I would mean policies, practices, accessibility. Cultural is more from behavior, is more from individuals' perspective, right? That is very important. So these four aspects of a pyramid need to be managed when you are changing DNI, because any one thing that you do possibly will not make the difference. I mean, for example, you could be making policies, but if people don't exhibit, people don't walk the talk, then those policies have no meaning. Until and unless your leadership is committed, how much change can you make? So the top of the pyramid is changing from the leadership. So these four aspects in an organization need to parallelly change.
Yes, you stressed on quite a few points, and I'm going to touch upon them in the rapid fire. Thank you, Linika, from the insights from the industry. Nanda, over to you.
Yeah, one of the important things I always believe is that you need to measure things. If you don't measure, you won't know the change. So starting from where you are, you need to measure where you are, and you regularly start declaring those numbers, talking about this. Second, I agree about making a big noise about whatever we are doing. Actually, we've realized small things like quarterly presentations that you make to your clients on your performance, what you're doing, how you're doing. We include a slide on DNI, what we're doing, and it excites the clients. I mean, they feel that connected with you. They say, we have such things in our organization. Is it okay for us to go and put it in our intranet that our vendors are doing this? So some vendors actually have a program where they ask you all these things, but then there are many where when we go talk about it, and then people on the floor also realize, what, this is impressing the clients. We should do more of it. So that's the other thing, making a lot of noise everywhere about it, and then making people aware of the fact that, it's not just your management which is asking it, your clients are also looking for it. That makes a big difference, I felt.
Madhuri, over to you.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost and most important is to create a mandate around it, a CEO's mandate around it. So HR and CEO need to sit down and put down the goals for the year for DNI, and it has to be a shared accountability in terms of the leadership has to all sign into that, because once you have an overall goal to it and an overall vision to it, then all the policies, practices, etc., everybody will start working on that. So once the goal is there and it is actually put into KPIs of the right people in the leadership, and it flows down to the last level, and if that part is done, generally the other things will start following. I think the second part here is, I mean, you put everything there. It's there for people to read that this is where the organization wants to do what and go in this direction. Is your reviewing and your monitoring. Are you reviewing it on a monthly basis? What are the tracks that you're looking at? What are the metrics that you're looking at? And how are you publicizing and communicating that? I think if we are able to put that together, I think the journey will be more fast-paced.
I also want to add one other thing. I mean, I know everybody's stressed about inclusion, but that is, again, very, very important. Anything you do without the inclusion. So I'm giving a small example of what we're doing. I mean, when we're talking of hiring differently abled people, we need to make sure that when they come, they feel included. And we had such a big buzz around, teaching sign language to everybody before hiring people who need to use sign language, because when they come in and they're not able to communicate, there are one or two people, they just talk to each other and they can't talk to anybody else. It doesn't help, So when we started doing that from leadership onwards, everybody was there in that training program where they were learning sign language, and then there were a lot of fun around that activity, and then we kept it sustained. So, the entire organization jumping into it and making it a big activity, that inclusion is very important also.
Absolutely. And as from the we gave a heads up sometime in our previous conversations, and we do see to it that we are training, people on different aspects of getting differently abled people on board too. So with that, a lot of discussion points. I'm sorry, I'm drinking all the water, but I'm unable to offer you even coffee on this virtual forum. But this brings us to the round of quick rapid fires. If you're fine, can we just extend this by 5 minutes? I know we've gone a little bit ahead in terms of time, but if you're all fine, we'll just go for a quick rapid fire. And I request all of you to be brief so that we can stick to the timelines. So yeah, this first question is home upbringing from childhood as a culture or organization as a culture will foster inclusion at work. Anybody who wants to take a stab at it?
It's both currently, but yeah, for future, if you want to make an impact, it has to start from school, because, and unfortunately, our education system is very science, maths oriented or studies oriented. It does not, though we have seen the shift happening now, it doesn't include life skills, value systems of humility, courage, failure is seen as a very big sin. It's not seen as a learning ground. So I think that kind of education has to start if we have to create the next generation who is actually
This reminds me the question that my daughter keeps asking. She keeps threatening me and saying, I will have to speak to your boss. Are you really? So she'll call me and I'll say, no, I don't have time. I don't think you're fit to be an inclusion leader. She'll come like this. Any stereotype she sees at home, for example, we called for masks and we said the blue masks Papa will wear. I will take the pink and you take the white. She's a completely stereotype. I will ensure Papa wears the pink mask to office.
Amazing. Yes.
A lot needs to change at our homes. Absolutely.
So let's move on to the next one. So what is the strange query or question you have received on the topic of diversity?
I had one person who told me that, you know what, I allow my wife to go to work. Why do we need all this? I mean, if you are allowing your wife, the word allow itself shows that, you've not reached there. So
I think we've all faced those kind of questions, what Nanda is talking about. And personally also, oh, you've left a 3-month child at home and you're back at work. And how do you, manage at a leadership position? And why have you hiring people, who are divorced? I mean, I've heard all kinds from across, different, so many years.
Okay.
I faced a situation. This was during my second maternity leave, and my boss was also, she was a lady boss. She was also expecting, and uske upar, the man also was to become a father. So I obviously it was 4 months of maternity leave, and for this one, for him it was 15 days of paternity leave. And he would come back to the department every time and say, where is Linika? Where is Linika? I have come back. Where is she? So people will say she's a mother. So for her, it's 4 months. Oh, really? 4 months? 4 months is a long time. Every time he would come back and feel so bad about it that he's come back, but the mother is still not back.
Yeah, that itself needs a lot of thought and the sensitization that we need to do, and also the thought of working on different policies. Okay. The last question for the rapid fire, and I'm sure these questions have not been tough, but certainly, thought-provoking. Any book, movie, or person that has influenced you for thinking about D&I?
I don't remember the movie, but there was this very specific movie which created a lot of rage, which was more about a person being diagnosed with HIV and the kind of treatment he received at the workplace. I'm just forgetting the name of the movie, but that stayed with me for a long time, where he was asked to go. This was, I think, a Western movie, and the kind of dilemmas that he faced, and ultimately the organization had to call him back because of the lawsuit that he filed. I'm just not getting the name, but yeah.
I'm just talking of a movie which I saw not long back, but I'm sure quite a lot over a period of time, not able to, recollect everything. But movies like 9 to 5, which, there is a Tamil version of it also, which is talking about how women are harassed at work and how these women get together and do stuff. And then there is something called Erin Brockovich, I think, recently. I mean, like, very impressed to see a woman, going out and really going out of our way. And then Best of Enemies, I think I saw that on Netflix recently. Again, a black woman fighting for the rights of educating children there in those days when there was segregation and all that. So lots and lots.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
I think when we did the prison thing in 2018, prior to that, it was almost a 7-8 month project before we actually went live. One of the movies I watched, I think I watched Shawshank Redemption maybe more than 20 times.
Wow.
I've lost count. And of course, there are innumerable movies that always portray prison as a in a very negative way. So maybe at a subconscious level, some of those things played in my head, but I can't directly attribute that initiative to that movie. But since you asked this question, probably somewhere deep down, that was also a trigger.
Thank you. I think this whole interaction with all of you for the last 1 hour has been so much more engaging and so much more learning from even our perspective, because we do talk about so many initiatives. We talk about organizations, different organizations, different setup of organizations. Now the work culture being, hybrid, work from home. We've faced the pandemic and there are so many more challenges. So I would now like to formally thank all of you for your great contributions and insight to this forum. The entire panel was really illuminating. I didn't have to put on the lights. It was a lot of radiation that was coming in, and especially it gives a lot of energy to this DNI team who's been part of this organizing team. And as you said, a lot of influencers also that we have. And we're always very privileged that we have Balaji and Prashant supporting all these initiatives and also making sure that they are part of it. They make time for these initiatives. And also when we tell them that this is what we want to do, and there's nothing that they say that, oh, this is what I want to do, but they want to hear us out in terms of what we are doing. So thank you, every single person on the panel over here. Thank you, Madhuri, Yinika, Nanda, and Dr. Kumar. Thank you, Balaji and Prashant, for your valuable time. Thank you, the entire DNI team, every single member who's here. Thank you, Dhananjay from the IT team, who's been always resolving our issues, that last minute struggles that we get. We should find a way to put that together every time. And thank you to all the panelists who are here, because this itself is a part of the sensitization that we do, right, in an organization. This is our third panel discussion in the year, and we have planned to have one more in December. And we need to continue this throughout the next few years to really bring about the change in the organization. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And we hope to meet soon again in different forums. And then Bharat will also reach out to you for any discussions that we need to do further on different topics. So thank you, everybody.